The Megabass Vision 110 has been a secret among touring pros for, well, as long as I've been fishing, really. You know, the standard 110 is a bait that's just caught fish all over the country throughout the spring, summer, and fall, winter. Any time of year, there's no jerkbait out there that's been more successful in tournament winnings that I'm aware of than a Megabass Vision 110. You can see this one here, I've probably caught hundreds of fish on this one bait. And I'm constantly asked the question, when do you throw the Silent Riser, the Vision 110 Plus one, the new deep diving one, or the Magnum 110? So there's some options there and everybody wants to know which one. Really, my starting point is almost always the 110. It's a standard, it catches fish everywhere you go, but I always have a 110 plus one tied on. This bait will run a little bit deeper, and by keeping an eye on your graph, you can really tell the depth that the bait's at, the fish are at. As you're going along, jerking over a point, down a bluff, whatever it would be, you want to keep an eye on your graph. And even if you're not seeing things that you think are bass, you'll see some bait balls, whatever it is suspended, that generally is going to be about the same depth as those bass. And that's when I'll go to that deeper diving jerkbait. The water can be really cold and you'll see a lot more down there, but you're going to want to let the fish tell you which one to determine. That's something I'll always have tied on when the water's below 50 though. At some point throughout the day, those fish will move up or down the water column, and that 110 plus one is going to reach them when the standard 110 would not. The Mag 110 is another new one we had out last summer, and it's just a killer in certain lakes. Blueback lakes, they love that big bait. They're used to feeding on those 6-inch herring. Up north, the smallmouth absolutely devour it. And really, any lake you go to with big fish in it, they're feeding on big bait when they have the opportunity. Those fish know how to use their resources, they use their energy wisely, and they try to eat as big a bait as possible. The 110 Magnum draws a lot of those big fish up, and you know, even smaller fish, it has the ability to draw them from a greater distance. They see that big bait. It's the same great action as the 110, just a little bigger version, attracts a little bigger bite sometimes just more bites. And kind of the sleeper, no pun intended, is the Silent Riser. It doesn't have the rattles in it the 110 does, and it actually floats. But it's just an awesome late spring, late summertime jerkbait. I love it when you want a lot of action out of your bait. You can get this bait to dart more than you can a 110. It stays up higher in the water column. If you get fish around garden fry in the spring, late spring like June, even in the shad spawn when it gets real calm and the water's clear and you need to catch them on a jerkbait, not a crankbait, the Silent Riser, an awesome selection. It works really well for smallmouth. They can't resist the darting of the Silent Riser. For all these baits, I use a pretty similar setup. I like the Megabass F3 6.8 X4. It's a really light action 6.8 rod. With a jerkbait, I don't want to pull it away from those fish, which is too easy to do. When you get a bite, you just pull and hold the fish. It works for all three of those baits. The one exception is the 110 plus, or the 110 Magnum, I'm sorry. I'll throw a little bit heavier rod, like a F4.5 6.8, and has a little bit more backbone. I can cast a little bit further, and a lot of times you're catching bigger fish, or else you're ripping it out of heavier cover like grass and stuff. That little bit stiffer rod is sometimes necessary with that, but most of the time that F3 6.8 X4 is all the rod you need for a jerkbait. It's just the perfect action with some 10-pound gamma fluorocarbon. You can't beat it. Give it a try this spring. I think you'll be impressed with the results.